All right, what's up, everybody? This is the week 8 presentation on personality types and generation types. I decided to take a pass on the vlog aspect of it. I've been sick, so I'm going to spare you all from having to look at me. So, so I'm just going to keep it traditional here. All right, personality types. So what am I? I kind of went into this last week on my presentation, maybe more than I should have. So, in the interest of not boring the people who have previously who watched my video from last week, I'm going to try and do it as a pretty quick recap here. But I came down as a introvert extrovert. That is somebody that definitely kind of sometimes likes to be the life of the party or center of attention and can be at times, but also finds that very draining and needs to kind of withdraw back into themselves. And that's definitely me. I landed on introspective, which is people that like to innovate, focused on what can be instead of what is. Kind of wants to think and dream about the future, likes to ask if this can't be done, why not? I got tough minded, and that was kind of somebody that is capable of having the tough conversations, I suppose, making tough decisions, even if that puts it in direct conflict with relationships, which I don't know. That's what the personality test said anyway. I thought that it would be a little bit closer, and it wasn't that far off. I think it was 12 to 8, but I probably would have thought of myself maybe as more relationally minded, but maybe not. I guess. Hey, the tests don't lie. Landed with probing and perceiving, and that was preferring to think deeply about a situation before jumping into a decision. Like to keep the options open as long as possible before locking into anything, and then we'll be at peace with the decision once it's made. This likely causes fewer mistakes, but sometimes can cause paralysis by analysis, and I think that's probably pretty true for me. The combination type I got was rational. That was the N and T together, and that was I kind of like to look at problems as though they're a puzzle. Independent minded, don't need a lot of external motivation. I'll supply my own motivation. Definitely prefer to have a rationale for the things that we do. I kind of, in previous managerial jobs I've had, was kind of referred to as articulating the whys, spelling out why we do things and why it's important to do it. Don't necessarily need or want somebody hovering over the shoulder. Just let my work speak for itself, and if it's found lacking, then we can work on that. But give me some space. And sometimes have to ask questions because it's almost like I have to create a mental roadmap to figure out how I'm gonna understand or go about something. So, and then once I've got that built, then it usually seems pretty easy after that. Things that you need to know about managing various personality types. I said you need to know who you are and what type of personality you are. You need to know other people and what type of personality they are, and then kind of how those things mesh. If you are maybe a tough-minded person that's dealing with something that's more relationally oriented, then maybe you want to soften those edges a little bit. Maybe it's for the best. You need to know how to create harmony instead of friction between differing personality types. That's important. Sometimes you can actually get you can get some more creative friction sometimes, but you want to make sure that you're not that it's not actually driving wedges in between people or groups. All right, so moving on to generations. Managing different generations. We heard in the lecture this week. We're going to talk traditionalists, baby boomers, Generation X, and Generation Y, that at least in popular culture anyway, is kind of more often referred to as millennials. Where do I sit in there? I'm kind of in the middle. On this cusp. I was born in 1979, which is kind of on this cusp between Generation X and Generation Y. And I always kind of said I consider myself to be Generation X, but can speak pretty reasonably fluent millennial. Like Generation X, I bring a positive attitude to work. Can be impatient for change if something, if you see something that needs to change, there's kind of this impulse to want to fix things right now and not have to go through multiple committee meetings and that sort of thing. So it's just like, hey, if this is a problem, let's just change it. Want freedom and flexibility in the workplace, and that is definitely something that I've craved. It's something that I get at my job right now, and I do appreciate that. Business casual dress. I'm not one of these traditionalists that likes to show up in a suit and tie to work. That just seems a little overly stuffy to me. Want security. Yeah, definitely. I think for people in my generation that have contended with the continued fallout from the economic abyss that happened in 2008, there's definitely kind of a desire for that. On the other hand, I identify with some of the Generation Y traits as well. As I noted, I do enjoy less formality. That's just, I don't know. That seems like something that's more of my father's or grandfather's time. Want work-life balance. I think that is something that we've, as a society, kind of started to understand is more and more important for people's mental health. And want to enjoy personal relationships with coworkers, want to enjoy that social aspect of work. However, like some of those old school guys, I can do without that. I mean, that's fine. But all things being equal, I think it would be good. I do enjoy the social aspect of things. Yeah, so generations at work. Implications for managers. Managers may attempt to use knowledge of each generation's general wants, likes, or needs to they might want to use that to the advantage of the organization by allowing them responsibilities that mesh well with their style, or at least their imagined style. Maybe you give some of the tech stuff to younger people, or social media type stuff for Generation Y. Something that deals a lot with long-standing relationships to more traditionalists or baby boomers. However, that being said, things are not always as they seem. What do you see when you look at this picture? Do you see a young woman looking over her shoulder? Or do you see an older woman, her profile? It's just to illustrate the fact that things are not always as they seem. So I do function mostly as a Gen X or Gen Y person, but I still wish anyway that I had the loyalty between myself and the organization that was kind of defined by traditionalists and earlier baby boomers. However, I haven't always necessarily received it, and so therefore you kind of have to adopt to the notion that that hey, this is just a job, and that we're all kind of expendable in a sense. Taking it a step further, my father, who is a baby boomer, he's nearing 70, but he still works, has no immediate plans to retire anytime in the foreseeable future. He behaves in many ways as a traditionalist. However, he is pretty tech savvy, at least for somebody in their late 60s, and is not afraid of technology and doing things differently. And that's kind of a stereotype that maybe older workers wouldn't be able to do that. He's also adjusted to the notion of kind of bringing work home and working at home, and kind of that, that's not something that is super separate, that the baby boomers do like that. So anyway, just saying that just because there are certain things that are supposed to be of a certain generation, we shouldn't allow the stereotypes to treat people as though they are nothing more than kind of a member of a generation. All right, so the ultimate question here: can one size fits all work? No, not in certain ways, I suppose. Interpersonal relationships, in that sense, no. One size fits all doesn't work. You need to take personality types into account if you're going to be a successful manager. Generational indicators, those may be helpful, but remember to use them on a case-by-case type of basis. You don't want to be that, like an older person trying to look cool by, using younger slang or something. It just comes across as patronizing. And in that same way, you don't necessarily want to treat somebody the way that you think they should be treated by age, and you should probably try to look at them as an individual, and that's kind of that personal aspect of it. On the other side, can one size fits all work? Yes, in a sense, and that's in that organizational culture type of way. Organizational culture should be assimilated to. It doesn't bend towards individual employees, and when it does, it's only slightly and usually very slowly. My organization, where I work, is run by baby boomers in a very traditionalist type of structure. It's very kind of old school. They don't much care if your Gen X or Gen Y sensibilities are offended by that. So it's very bureaucratic, very top down, and you need to adapt to it. If the organizational culture is found to be wanting, if you're not digging on it, it may be a poor fit, and maybe it's time to move on. After all, right, younger workers tend to be more focused on self gratification than loyalty anyway, and it is just a job to many people. So you can always go out and try and find something that's a little bit more to your liking. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Good luck on getting ready for that final.